Welcome to the Style Free Podcast, where a father and son detail and digress on a wide variety of topics within music, art, family, and culture. Your hosts are Professor Stephen J. Tyson, Sr. and Jr., also known as Dad and Papa. In today's episode, we recap the Easter Sunday VERZUZ battle between the Isley brothers and Earth, Wind & Fire, hosted by Steve Harvey. So that VERZUZ happened this past Sunday.
Man, that was something. That was, it was supposed to be a battle, but it was a love fest. That's what it was, 4 hour
for sure.
Love fest, and it was great to see them and all the love, that was coming from, Steve Harvey. Because he did it with pure love. So that goes back a long way. And also the Isleys, you could just feel, and then to learn that the Isleys and Earth, Wind & Fire have known each other, all over the years, and that, they have certain connections, familial connections and stuff like that. I
didn't know Philip Bailey was Ronald Isley's brother-in-law. Like that was mind blowing. I was like, to learn little Easter eggs or little gems like that was really
right. And about learning to change diapers. Ron learning to change diapers from one of them. I forget, Verdine or Philip. It was just really lovely. And then to see Ron and Candy's son there too. How he's grown.
Wow.
It was a real family atmosphere. The only thing that I had some concern with was that everybody, nobody was wearing a mask that I could see. Everybody was in close proximity, social distancing, people coming up to the stage and the after party and that sort of thing, especially. And I just felt that the message of that love that was overflowing could have also been extended in terms of a kind of public service announcement or a little quote saying, we've all been tested and and now you go out there and mask up and don't do this at home, kind of
right. Exactly. Yeah, my presumption was that they were all COVID tested and everybody was safe, but to at least make an acknowledgement of it. Because you got folks in their 80s literally on stage, or at least pushing 80.
Pushing 80, yeah. And so I just thought that could have been done in the beginning, the middle, during the break, and at the end. We're all excited to get together with folks again, but we have to be, we have to also use common sense. We also have to follow the science. So we'll get there if we all stay mindful and responsible. Now, that aside, I thought that video, Friends and Family, was just, it's so needed. That feeling. Coming together, we've been through some difficult times, but, now we're back together, or we're coming together, and, it's very uplifting, very uplifting. And to see Ron in I know he's had some health challenges, but to see him looking in good form, singing well, Ernie there by
Ernie was killing it. Ernie was killing it. His solos during that VERZUZ, incredible.
Oh, man.
He was taking it to another level. To see somebody in their 70s, going off, playing with their teeth, playing behind the back, with these custom, immaculate looking guitars. It was just, for somebody who was also left off the Billboard, or not the Billboard, the Rolling Stone, 100th greatest guitarists of all time, left off that list.
Yeah.
He definitely stood his claim, to say, I am here.
No, that absolutely. Playing behind the back, playing with his teeth, he was just bringing out stuff nobody was expecting, because he's been so underseen, underappreciated. Here's a guy who Jimi Hendrix was with him in his house, as a kid. Ernie is, I think he's 70 this year, or he's pushing 70, but the point is, and then all these years, I have one recording that he did. He was singing on that as well. you know. And so when Steve said, you know, everybody up here can sing, everybody up here can sing, you know, he was really pushing in the fact that these individuals are multi-talented. You know, they can do a number of different things, you know, so they're bringing something to the table that can inspire other generations, following generations, you know, that putting in the work. And back in the day, you know, of course, entertainers had to be able to do a number of different things. You know, some of them were known as maybe film stars, but they got that way by going through vaudeville, by tap dancing or hoofing, you know, singing. You know, they had to be able to be flexible to wherever the opportunities were. Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of coming through that tradition that these guys are, you know, pushing forward. But anyway, it was great to see the songs, you know, the hits. I mean, 4 hours wasn't enough, you know, just to cover, you know. I love, you know, they would do things like Love the One You're With, and then That's the Way of the World, and This Old Heart of Mine. You know, we were talking about the Motown, you know, the Motown minute that the Isley brothers had. And
they locked into that Motown sound too, that Dozier Holland sound.
Yeah, they did. You know, they were right there with it. And, you know, which brings to mind, we're going to be talking about, you know, a number of different things here, but songwriting is so, I think, you know, we know about the stars, the people who were in front, you know, on the stage or in front of the camera and videos and stuff like that. But the songwriters are really, really, I think, sometimes underappreciated.
Yeah, I didn't know Ernie wrote so many of those songs too.
Yes,
incredible.
You know, one of them being, you know, At Your Best. You know, which is my two favorite songs. I think I mentioned this last time. Were At Your Best and Harvest for the World.
Yeah, Harvest for the World. I love that song. It was cool hearing Ralph in Earth, Wind & Fire comment on how he loved the chord changes in Harvest for the World and how it's just such a beautiful song. It really is. It's, you know, like how the song sounds, it almost feels like a spring, summer day. And you know, you're just looking forward to positivity.
Which is interesting because, you know, he said, nation after nation's, you know, turning into beasts. Or when will there be a harvest for the world? So it's bringing a certain reality, you know, to the situation, but at the same time, it also has that forward trajectory, like, you know, like there is that light, you know, at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
you know, and it's not a train.
And that Ernie wrote most of those lyrics, and like, you know, he's
so there you go again. You know, he sings, he is writing these great lyrics, you know, whether it's a romantic ballad or whether it's a kind of, you know, social consciousness statement. And as a guitarist, you know, as you were saying before, I mean, he is just absolutely incredible. Why he is not on that list is criminal. You know, put him in rock, put him in R&B, whatever category you want. I mean, as a guitarist, he's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And there was a song talking about the social aspect of it. We were talking about earlier, you know, Earth, Wind, and Fire and higher consciousness and, you know, that sense of, you know, rising to your full potential, you know, going within, you know, rising up. And the Isley brothers with, you know, Fight the Power and
another Ernie Isley.
But, you know, back in the early 70s, the Isley brothers had an album. I think the album was called Giving It Back. And on there, they had a song called Ohio, which was based off the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, I believe, song, which was a response to the students that were killed at Kent State. Back in I remember when that happened. You know, and you know, it was on the radio and everything that, you know, students who were anti-war activists were shot by the National Guard that had been sent out.
You were 14 at that time.
Yeah.
Or turning 14. How did that affect you as a teenager?
It was devastating because, first of all, I'm a student. I'm not an older student. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm in junior high school, but I'd lived through already the assassination of President Kennedy. I remember coming home and your grandmother crying, and they sent us home from school. I remember Malcolm, had been assassinated. I remember Bobby Kennedy, of course, Martin Luther King, and then Bobby Kennedy, and other. I mean, there was just one thing after another, and then this situation. It just really was another blow. It felt like an attack. That young people, this generation was being attacked. The aspirations that were embodied in people like Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and many young people who had those aspirations. It was like another blow. You had Fred Hampton. There was
that was just 5 months prior to the Kent State shootings. Yeah.
So it was just like, one thing. I mean, there was a lot of turmoil going on. So that's what it felt. It was like one other thing, to deal with and contend with and sort of navigate your way through. But even for the kids who are older, the college students, who are out there on the campuses, that literally, their lives were in jeopardy potentially.
Yeah. And that definitely connects to today, and very much so, and how everybody's out protesting and, raising their voices for what's right and human rights, specifically Black Lives Matter, protecting Asian and Asian Pacific Islanders. There's a whole lot of voice and, protest that's going on out there right now. Yeah. It was really great to have a moment of celebration amid a pandemic, amid, a race-demic, amid all these things that are happening. And, here we are able to take 4 hours on an Easter Sunday, a day that's a moment of resurrection.
There you go. I was just going to say that.
We're able to then, whether it's communicating and connecting with family or just, reminiscing on your own experiences growing up or, all those different moments, if it's just one of those like cleaning the house on a Saturday morning kind of vibes, everything is encompassed within the 4 hours that both Earth, Wind & Fire and the Isley Brothers gave us. So you lived through a lot of turmoil throughout the 60s and the 70s. And, I've definitely lived through a lot of turmoil in 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. And, this music is still here to still give us a sense of comfort and a sense of hope.
Yeah.
And just as it did, for your generation is doing for mine. And it's interesting too, like even using phrases like your generation versus my generation or, and Steve Harvey was addressing a lot of this in his commentary, around, like young folks this and, old folks that, and, trying to almost creating a divide with, generations. But what I've been thinking about, in reflecting on that was that we're all alive at the same time. So the generations that we're referring to are really the experiences and the way the world was in existence during our comeuppance, and during our, growth into adulthood. And then it's like, once you hit that, theoretical plateau of like adulthood, after, adolescence and growing up, things of that nature, then it's like, then that was my generation back then, and you're growing up right now. So this is your generation. And like generations seem to be defined as the moments when people were growing up, so to speak.
Yeah.
As though you're stopping, as though there's a cap on your growth at a certain age, or as though we're not all in existence living together.
Right. I think it was, some individuals used to say back in the day, don't trust anyone over 30, back in the 60s and all, people would say that kind of thing. And the point is that, well, are you saying that you stopped growing, that you, like your generation, well, like you said, you're living now, I'm living now. So when I say back in my day, well, wait a minute, this is your day. Mm-hmm. Are you still, learning? Are you still growing? Are you still, is life and learning a process that ends at a certain marker, that says, okay, you're 30 or you're 35. And so that's it. You're an adult now. So therefore, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think there are artificial kinds of barriers and things that we set up. Going back to Steve Harvey, I do feel that there was maybe a little bit of shade there thrown at hip hop, but I think it was sort of like somebody who's trying to say in his own very passionate way, and in his own style, like, you guys need to pay attention to this, because don't lose the connection. Don't lose the connection.
Right.
I think that's where his heart was.
That's definitely where his heart seemed to be, but it came off very condescending.
Well, and then also he made some comment about now guys are dancing with other guys, and he was definitely. And I was like, wait a minute now,
right.
So there's a bit of that homophobic element there.
Yep.
And so I felt that okay, you know what? At that point, I was ready to just hear the music and.
I think everybody was. That's why they taking that break. And then allegedly, Swizz Beatz had a quick conversation with Steve. And then when they came back, that's when you noticed it was all just them just doing their hits. And Steve was just sitting down quiet for like a half hour. And then finally, you started to see Ralph and, Ernie and all these folks started to be like, come on, Steve, like, get back into it. Because he's definitely put on timeout after he started, dancing around in homophobic, language and territory, which was completely unnecessary.
No, it definitely wasn't necessary. I mean, and I thought that, I guess if we're going to get into it a little bit, I know he knows Ron Isley and they go back, a bit. And, but when he took Ron's coat and he started walking around. And,
I was like, wow, he's disrespecting Ron's coat. Like, I was like, I know you got money, Steve, but you just don't take another man's coat and start costuming it.
No.
Like, that's,
because he's talking about having, we all got our pimp gear here and all this sort of thing. Now, the other component was the smoking of the cigars. Now, on TV shows, nobody smokes because anymore. I mean, it's just, for health reasons, I mean, not everybody on there smokes. Now, I know in the after party, Philip Bailey pulled out his cigar,
Yeah, and I'm sure he also probably cleared that at some point, being like, yo, if I fire up a cigar, y'all cool, and everybody was fine with that, is my assumption.
I guess. I would say so. Anyway, but the point is that the message that it sends about smoking, for example.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you got a little cigar, you're cooling out with some whiskey, you vibing, you got the Isleys going. Like,
yeah. I know. Yeah. All right, anyway, that's just my little thing.
I mean, you gotta, do right for health, and I understand.
I mean, with people on that stage there with their health challenges and all that stuff.
No, right now, if Ronald started hacking up a lung sitting next to Steve, then it would have been cause for concern. But beyond that,
has had strokes, and so the blood circulatory system has to be right, and you up there smoking cigars, and I don't know. But anyway, let's jump off of that. But when I was thinking about songs like Footsteps, great song by the Isleys, and then thinking about how I think was the song "A Nice Day" by Ice Cube.
Oh, today was a good day. It was a good day.
Today was a good day.
Yeah.
Right. Taken from that.
Yep.
Talking about the influence, of these groups.
I like the fact that I got to go back. I like the fact that you said "a nice day." Like I get to see like Ice Cube rolling in a 6'4" Polygon. Today was a nice day.
With that scowl on his face.
Right. All in all, it's pretty pleasant. Pleasant day.
Actually, it was quite spectacular. Yeah, but anyway, well, I can't remember the names of all the songs.
No, I know.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you're like a walking encyclopedia. Like it's impressive all the stuff that you do retain and continue to.
Yeah, well, some of the pages are missing, but that's okay. Anyway, but to hear the influence, the continuing impact, I'm sure because D Nice in the break, he played some songs, that were inspired by Earth, Wind, and Fire, and
Queen Pen's "Party Game to Party."
Man,
that's one of the best samples.
I remember that. Dun, dun, dun.
From "On Your Face."
Oh man, that was great.
Yeah, that the way that I don't know the best way to describe it musically, with all the theory or the technicality behind it, but just the way that the drum and the bass in that and the way they lock in. I mean, the groove is just incessant on that song.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely on point. And so there you got Earth, Wind, and Fire. You got the Eyes. Everybody's being represented, in one way or another, and that link is there. And it was great to see the people who were chiming in.
I mean, yeah, because EWF and Isley's, they touch everybody.
Everybody. I
mean, it's cool too. Like, we posted up the first episode talking about this whole verses, and then if you're listening on SoundCloud, it'll transition right into the next song. And for a lot of folks, that next song was by an artist named T. Hawkins. And it transitioned to his song called Switch Lanes, which happened to sample Isley Brothers' Choosy Lover. So here you go from listening to this breakdown of Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Isley Brothers right into a song that samples Choosy Lover. It was just, the Isleys and EWF are everywhere, touching so many folks across generations, even though we know generations are a relative term. So.
That's right. And then he also, D Nice, put on Salt and Pepper. They had now I don't remember the exact name of the song, but it was "Shake Your Thing." Take your thing out, do what you gonna do.
That's the name of the song.
Okay. So that's "It's Your Thing," by the Isley Brothers.
That song was produced by a producer named Herbie Lovebug.
Oh, Herbie Love, yeah. He worked with Kid and Play too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But it also has Funky President.
James Brown's Funky President. Yeah.
But I remember when Stevie Wonder had a special off of the Characters album that he had. I think he came out in '87 or so. And among his guests were Stevie Ray Vaughan, but also Salt and Pepper. And Salt and Pepper came on there with Herbie.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. I remember I think it was a special on VH1 or something like that. Man, I'd love to see that episode again, particularly with Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's another conversation for another time. Incredible blues guitarist.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely do an episode on blues guitarists and, dive into a whole lot of those folks too.
Yeah. And also that, just to go back for a minute to that song, Shake Your Thing, it has that go-go thing. So you're thinking about groups like EU.
Yeah, with the butt.
That's right. I think it was in Spike's movie, right?
Yeah, it was in School Days. And then, it's one of the so many HBCU anthems that exists.
Oh yeah, and the ballads, man. Here We Go Again, and I could just go on and on. I mean, it was just, I'll Write a Song, where Phillips, vocals just ascend. I mean, they just ascend. I think the one song, though, I mentioned this before. This is a little off from the that Love Fest, but Imagination is one of my favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire songs with Philip.
I don't think they played that one during the battle.
No, they didn't play it. And to me, that groove and the way that the vocals ascend and ride like a wave at the end of the song, it just keeps soaring. It just keeps reaching. There's this sense of the choir in some of Earth, Wind, and Fire's songs, particularly at the end. And it's just amazing to hear. And a lot of that, comes from Charles Stepney, this master orchestrator, writer, arranger. There's just so many things to say about Charles Stepney that hasn't been said. I mean, a book should be written about him. A full-length documentary should be done, about his life. He's working with Denise Williams, working with, who else did he work with? I think he worked with, he worked, of course, with Rotary Connection, which included Minnie Riperton, the mother of Maya Rudolph, the actress, comedian.
Yeah.
And her father, Dick Rudolph. And Minnie was just amazing. All those different octaves that she could reach. And I remember somebody once told me that the reason why, Charles Stepney with I think in the Open Our Eyes recording by Earth, Wind and Fire used a synthesizer. And he heard in Minnie's voice, because she could reach those high octaves, it was like she was a theremin.
That instrument with you're almost like you're playing the air.
That's right. You can affect the frequencies and the wavelengths on this electronic machine by moving your hands in different directions, and you can create a song, a melody with just by the movement of your hands. The theremin, created by Leon Theremin. There is various songs. When you think about those science fiction movies, the 1940s and 50s, that have those eerie, that's a theremin. Okay. And he invented this, back in the 1920s, I believe. And his partner or wife at one point was a Black woman who was a dancer. I believe she was from Harlem. And Leon Theremin created this floorboard where this is what I read. I can't verify this, exactly, but when she would dance on certain parts of the floor, it would have different sounds that went to it. And this is back in the 1930s. Okay. And then at some point he was spirited away to the Soviet Union. I think he was imprisoned there for a period of time. And then the two of them rejoined like 40 years later, 50 years later. So That's another love story, interesting story I'd like to learn more about. But the point is that I thought about Big. I think it was the Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, where they're dancing on the piano.
Yes, that piano. And I said, wait a minute, that's sort of like what Leon Theremin was doing with, his wife or his partner.
Wow.
Anyway, that's a little off topic, but but this idea of the use of the synthesizer, and in R&B music and so forth. Well, that goes back to, of course, Stevie Wonder in the 70s. With being exposed to the music of the recently departed Malcolm Cecil and Robert Margouleff, Tonto's Expanding Headband. And he, had a copy of that album, and he said, man, I want to work with you guys. Booked a room, I think it was the Electric Lady Studio where Jimi Hendrix had been, and just went for it. And the rest is like landmark, classic, quote unquote, Stevie.
Yeah. And today you have folks like Mike Dean helping to continue to push the sonics of synthesizers into new generations, into, new ears and new audiences, and having folks appreciate, the history and the legacy of the Moog and other types of synthesizers that have, created and shaped the soundscape of so much of the music that we've appreciated over the last few decades.
Yeah. And of course you had the clavinet, people like Herbie experimenting with electronic keyboards, at the prompting of Miles, who was making that transition, toward the more electronic sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of interesting things and a lot of intersections, between the music of the Isley Brothers and Earth, Wind and Fire, and the culture and how they're using technology in various ways, to advance the lyrics and the music, and helping the culture to move forward in certain ways.
Absolutely. So awesome. Yeah, we'll keep these conversations going, and it looks like we've got some other topics and things to dive into in the future too. So great recap, and looking forward to the next verses. so much more to say, but we'll leave it there for now. It's great talking with you as always. Likewise, Dad.
Okay, Pop.